Star Trek, Primitive Passenger Season 4, Episode 7, If Only the Stars. Nolan stood just inside a bustling cafe on Starbase Yorktown awaiting Dr. Lisette Aldean for what was essentially a job interview. She seemed to be running late. He spotted the doctor entering from the far side of the cafe. She nodded at him but remained absorbed in a device emitting sporadic bursts of light. She appeared perturbed, fiddling with the gadget as she approached. Nearby, 2 junior Starfleet officers were engaged in a hushed conversation, but trapped in the Delta Quadrant. "That's a life sentence," one said. "They'll be lucky if their grandchildren see Earth." "No kidding." "It's terrifying," the other responded, "but we thought the crew of Voyager was dead for over a year." "It's incredible they're even alive." Nolan, intrigued by the mention of the Delta Quadrant, approached the officers. "Gentlemen, I couldn't help but overhear. Did you say the USS Voyager is trapped in the Delta Quadrant?" The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Sorry, that's actually classified," one stammered. "Please disregard." Nolan leaned in closer. "Listen, I'm not Starfleet, but you may have heard of me. I'm Nolan Mercer, and I might be the only person in the quadrant who can help. Please, tell me more." The stunned looks on the officers' faces said a lot. "Look, all we know is they're stuck out there. Their EMH showed up on another ship and informed Starfleet," one officer said nervously, realizing that he's standing in front of the oldest human ever. "Anything else is way beyond our pay grade." Dr. Aldean arrived beside Nolan, looking disheveled but brilliant, dressed in khaki, tan, and brown, reminding Nolan of his elementary school librarian, right down to her curly reddish-brown hair in a tangled mess. "I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. Some days my work is just ridiculous," she said, still frustratedly manipulating the flashing device. "Gentlemen, thank you for your time." Nolan nodded to the officers. "Let's head out, Doctor. We have a lot to discuss." As they walked through the corridors of Starbase Yorktown, Nolan launched into basic pleasantries. "I have a conference room reserved just ahead, Dr. Aldean. I've ordered in lunch so we won't be interrupted." He smiled, though his thoughts lingered on Voyager and the Delta Quadrant. "Please call me Liz. We're pretty informal in the lab. I hope you weren't waiting long." She shakes the device and growls at it. "It's so frustrating." "Liz, it is." "Call me Nolan," he replied. "So what you got there?" Turning to the device. She slipped the small device into a bag under her arm. "The most frustrating piece of technology I've ever stolen," she said, then met his eyes, realizing she'd just said the quiet part out loud. It was supposedly a Romulan quantum wave field meter, to be able to read the intensity of quantum waves, but honestly all it seems to do is toss me around in time. A few minutes forward, a few minutes back. It's very strange to get dressed, walk into the bathroom, and have a conversation with yourself getting out of the sonic shower. Nolan's expression lit up. "That sounds really interesting, and absolutely terrifying." He looked all around them and asked, "So where are all your duplicates?" "Shouldn't there be a half-dozen or so of you running around?" "I have no idea, to be honest. I saw myself getting out of the sonic shower. A humbling experience, by the way," we chatted. "I stepped out of the room, and when I turned around, the other me was gone. It seems to fix its own broken timelines, but there is no rhyme or reason as to what or why it does what it does," was Nolan's only reply. He'd avoided any sort of time travel tech for fear he'd go crazy and try to beam back to when he was alive. They walked on quietly. "Hey, this is off topic, but have you heard anything about the USS Voyager?" "Who hasn't? It's all abuzz with the Starfleet types." Nolan opened a door to a conference room, and they stepped in. "Why so intrigued?" "You know my story, right? I spent quite a bit of time in the Delta Quadrant." He pulled out a chair for her. She looked at him quizzically, but sat down. "If there's any way I could help them." "So those stories are true? I thought everyone was trying to scare me away from working with you." She grabbed a small sandwich from a plate on the table and a tall glass of liquid. "You're some kind of Unkillable human hybrid sent to destroy humanity, right? She teased, opening her sandwich, wiping everything off the bread with a napkin, then putting it back together. Many of the stories are true, Doctor. Liz looked up at him. Liz, he corrected. I'm human. I've just been around a while. Do you know where I might get coordinates for Voyager, or some hint of their location? Liz finished trimming the crusts from the bread, took a drink, and mulled it over. I have a good friend at the Newton settlement, Dr. Trinette. He's plugged into all the Starfleet gossip. They've probably contacted him about it. He's the big brain, she said, making air quotes. They reach out to him whenever faced with the impossible. She finally took the tiniest bite of what was left of her sandwich. Something in Liz's bag began buzzing. Liz looked terribly embarrassed and began digging frantically in the bag. The buzzing stopped. Nolan paid no attention. Maybe we'll reach out to Dr. Trinette later. Nolan stacked 2 sandwiches and took a big bite. So why would the leading scientist in temporal catalysts want to work for me in the ascend of the Alpha Quadrant? He asked with a full mouth. Wow. You're a good eater, Liz said very excitedly, and appeared to be looking directly into Nolan's mouth. Shrugging off Nolan's aggressive eating style, she said, You're working with a Cardassian scientist named Colmack. We're the 2 leading researchers in the field of quantum wave fields. I've always wanted to work with Colmack. I think her system for monitoring repeating waveforms is cutting edge, and my system for creating waveforms should integrate perfectly with hers. Natima Colmack is a force to be reckoned with. She and Jalora McCore run the show in that part of the lab. Do you think you could jump in okay with 2 Cardassians? He shoved the rest of his sandwiches into his mouth. I did my undergrad thesis on Cardassian scientific advancements, so I know how things work there. Liz took a bite and washed it down with her drink. I also did my last 2 years of advanced temporal mechanics on Vulcan, so I know how to survive in a hostile environment, she chuckled. As far as I'm concerned, if you're okay with being far from the UFP Center, the job is yours. You'll be well taken care of and have unparalleled facilities to work from. He sat back, took a quick drink, and wiped his mouth with a napkin. Colmack is pretty easygoing. We get along fine. I'm sure you won't have any trouble. You'll also get the added advantage of being a female scientist. Colmack doesn't trust male researchers. Liz snorted. I'd heard Cardassian scientists were like that. Besides, I hear you can travel from Cardassian space to Earth in the blink of an eye. She began her process of cleaning the food from inside another sandwich. If they hate me, you can bring me right back, right? Nolan nodded, acknowledging the blink-dry reference. She stood and smoothed her skirt, which was still wrinkled. I'm in, she said, extending her hand. Oh, and I've already resigned my post here. I can leave any time. She paused. Surprise, she said under her breath. Welcome aboard. Nolan shook her hand. They continued shaking hands, creating an odd, awkward moment. Nolan and Liz were on the bridge of one of Nolan's multi-purpose passenger ships. These smaller ships were equipped with hollow emitters and could be quickly configured for cargo with a small bridge, or crew quarters with a dining hall, or as lavish luxury passenger vessel with a casino and dancing girls. Just select what you want to use the ship for, and it holographically creates the interior you desire. This ship was set up with a large, comfortable bridge, 2 huge sleeping quarters, and comfortable common areas for Nolan and Liz to spend time together. The ship was simply called 327, and it was the 327th one built out of the thousands Nolan had sold or added to his fleet. They both dropped into plush chairs on the bridge. This nice, Liz said, looking around. I touched base with Dr. Trinette. He told me he didn't know anything and cut me off. It looks like Starfleet might be monitoring him to ensure he keeps the Voyager information under wraps. Liz handed Nolan a pad. What's this? I thought he didn't give you anything. Opening the pad, he raised his eyebrows. Okay, 5 minutes after he cut me off, I received a scrambled subspace transmission from the Newton Institute, she said. Tallis Trinette and I go way back, she said suggestively. I guess so, said Nolan, delving into the information on the pad. Elara, dig through this and see if we can find Voyager. Liz, if I have coordinates or any clue to their location, I'm going, he said, standing and watching data scroll across the main view screen as Elara processed it. Do you want me to send you ahead to meet with Dr. Colmack on your own? I hate to leave you without a formal introduction. Pulling her bare feet up onto the soft chair, Liz replied, Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. And I would love to go to the Delta Quadrant with you, she enunciated carefully. Pretty sure you're the only human to go there and back. I'd like to add my name to that very exclusive list. Nolan was surprised and turned to look at her. He hadn't considered taking anyone with him. Are you sure? It's a big jump, and there's no guarantee of returning. He leaned over and put his face in front of hers. We could be stuck there. We could die there. He said, trying to make eye contact. But I'm with the unkillable century-soul Nolan Mercer. What could possibly go wrong? Liz jokingly spread her hands and looked into Nolan's eyes. Nolan sat on the edge of the chair next to Liz. I am quite killable. I can die just like any other human, and so can you, he said sternly. I typically work alone with Elara and one of our bigger ships, the Havoc. But we can jump in 327 if you're sure. Again, no guarantees we'll find them, and no guarantees we'll make it back. Nolan, I'll need another hour, but I have Voyager's actual telemetry. I should be able to extrapolate a rough position, Elara interjected. Seriously, your ship's computer can do all that. You have an hour to change your mind. Otherwise, you're coming with. And, yeah. Elara is the enhanced logistics and remote assistance AI module of a much more advanced ship, and she can do damn near anything. Right, Elara? Nolan said with a big, gregarious smile. RT Inthara, Nolan said in disbelief. I'd hope never to hear that name again. Yes, Nolan. Voyager may be in the area of Inthara, near the old Gentara array, Elara replied as the nodes of the Gentara array appeared on the view screen. They contacted Starfleet by sending their EMH through the Gentara array and onto a Starfleet ship at the edge of the Alpha Quadrant. A line traced the trajectory the EMH had taken. From the few notes I have, they would have been traveling roughly in the direction of the Entheran Empire. Smart. They've got good people stuck out there. Do you think the Entherans still have an empire? They were on shaky ground back when you and I were there. He sank heavily into the large, plush chair. The Entherans had big guns, and so did their enemies. The doors slid open, and Dr. Aldean walked onto the bridge, wearing a robe and toweling her hair. I had no idea showering in water felt so good. How can I ever get back into a sonic shower again? She pulled the towel back from her face, strands of wet hair framing her relaxed expression. I don't know if I'm clean, but I feel like I just got a massage. It's so invigorating, she shouted, bent in half, still toweling her hair. Nolan glanced at her, then back at the console. We think we know the area where Voyager might be. We were near there at one point, and it was a pretty hostile place. Lots of big players with lots of firepower. Liz sat in the next chair and swung her feet up. This ship is not ideal for that environment. Why not go take a look around? If we don't see Voyager and it looks like trouble, we can just blink back, right? She pulled the small Romulan device from the pocket of her robe. I want to see what happens with this when we blink, showing it to Nolan. In theory, we can bounce right back. Nolan looked up at the ceiling, his mind racing. Making the jump will require 77% of our power supplies. We should be able to reload and come back, but it's not an immediate turnaround. We'll have to do some scouting for materials. Dilithium, duratanium, and probably more trinium oxide. We know where those materials were decades ago when we were in the area, but there are no assurances they haven't been harvested by now. Elara pointed out, her voice steady. But we can gather materials and prepare for the return trip first, then search for Voyager when we know we have a way back. How many souls are aboard Voyager? Can we fit everyone on 327 for the bounce back to Alpha? From what I can tell, a lot of Voyager's crew is dead. I think they may have picked up some locals to supplement their crew. There are positions on the manifest where the names are redacted, so we don't know if those are Starfleet personnel. Assuming everyone is along for the ride, we need to carry over 150 passengers. His eyes widened. No way you can get that many people on this little ship. We'll run out of air, and food and water. It'll be tight, standing room only. But it will work, Nolan said, noting the alarm on the doctor's face. It's not a long trip, Liz. A matter of minutes, really. Glancing at the wave meter. Are you sure that thing's safe? Of course, It's difficult to pull your thinking away from the time involved in warp travel, she said, shaking her head, completely ignoring Nolan's last question. What are we waiting for? Nolan gazed thoughtfully at the star map on the view screen. All right, let's do it. Ilara, plot the course to the Anthara sector and prepare the blink drive. Liz looked excited and slightly nervous. So we're really doing this? Yep, Nolan replied firmly. We'll gather materials, make sure we have enough supplies for the return trip, and then we'll look around for Voyager. He took a deep breath. This little ship doesn't have the scanning capabilities of the Havoc, but we'll take a peek. Ilara's voice filled the bridge, smooth and calm, course plotted. We're ready to jump, Nolan. The doctor should be in her pressure suit. Nolan turned to Liz. Doctor, you'll find a full pressure suit in your quarters. Please go put it on. The effects of the blink drive can be kind of harsh the first time out. What about you? She asked, eyebrow raised. I'm unkillable, he replied flatly, turning back to Liz. Until we made some modifications, I was unconscious after every jump, and I woke up with a brutal hangover. Better safe than sorry, Doc. Liz was already heading out the door to get her pressure suit. It's Liz. 327 vibrated slightly as it prepared to blink to the Delta Quadrant. Liz took a deep breath, the anticipation mixing with adrenaline. Nolan raised his hands above his head and hooted loudly. Woo-hoo! Blink drive. Engaged. With a flash, the 327 vanished from Starbase Yorktown. The stars outside the viewport elongated into streaks of light, and the ship reappeared in an unfamiliar sector of space, surrounded by the wreckage of old battles and the remnants of derelict ships. The Anthara sector, Ilara announced, detecting several large vessels in the vicinity. They appear to be inactive and leaking multiple forms of radiation. Liz stared at the view screen, taking in the scene. It's like a graveyard, she whispered, turning away to repress her urge to vomit. Nolan nodded. Anything we need. Can we scavenge from these ships? He asked, looking up, as he often did when talking to Ilara. We're safe from the radiation, and no one can detect us in this graveyard. Multiple derelict ships scrolled through the view screen. We can transport almost everything we need from here. We're short on duratanium, but we can get by. We can get home. Mercer was clicking through a series of keys on his display. Long-range sensors. I don't see anything. The Entheran homeworld is still inhabited, but their ships seem a bit toothless compared to last time. That was 110 years ago, Nolan. Things change, Ilara reminded. Dr. Aldean reacted with astonishment. 110 years. Any sign of Voyager? I've got a faint warp signature. It's Starfleet, but I can't be sure it's Voyager. More images scrolled across the main screen. Here, the Entheran database shows Voyager was in orbit of Anthara less than 2 weeks ago. More images scrolled past. Apparently there was an incident with a crew member and a local arms dealer. Someone died. So let's blink past Anthara and push in their direction of travel. That could leave us short on supplies, Ilara cautioned. Stockpile what we can from here. We'll have to find what we need on the fly. Nolan smiled at Liz. What do you think of the Delta Quadrant so far? Ilara is really impressive. You two make a good team. She covered her mouth for a second. How does she access the Entheron database? I simply spool up my... That's what Ilara does. Nolan cut her off. We found our way home by collecting databases and searching for any reference to humans or Earth. We were able. I'm right here, Nolan, Ilara interjected. It was very quiet for a few minutes. Then Ilara blinked the 327 toward Voyager. As soon as the ship stopped, Liz's eyes rolled around in her head, and she lost consciousness. Nolan caught her and lowered her into the big plush chair. The device sitting next to her in the chair was now a whirl with flashing lights. Let's give it a try. This is Nolan Mercer to the USS Voyager. Do you read? Nolan repeated. USS Voyager. Do you read? This is the USS Voyager. To whom am I speaking again? Came the reply from a young male voice. This is Acting Captain Harry Kim. To whom am I speaking? Harry Kim, sitting in the captain's chair on the bridge of Voyager, appeared on the view screen. I'm Nolan Mercer. We're going to try to get you back home. Harry leaned forward, his expression hopeful yet cautious. You're human. Has Starfleet found a way to get us back home? He asked, trying to contain his excitement. We're not Starfleet, but we may have a way. I'm sending you my coordinates. We're currently unable to pinpoint your location. Liz began to wake. She looked around and found the Romulan device underneath her, pressed into the chair. She grabbed it and stared with a surprised look and all the lights and buttons now flashing wildly. Captain Janeway and Commander Chakotay to the bridge, Harry said into his comm. How do I know you're not trying to lure us into a trap? Where's Starfleet? Liz sprang to her feet. He's Nolan Mercer. Haven't you heard of him? She quickly turned away, holding in her vomit. This better be good, Harry, Commander Chakotay said, entering the bridge still buttoning up his uniform. Harry muted the comm and explained the situation to Chakotay as a freshly woken Janeway also entered the bridge and went straight to her ready room for a cup of coffee. As Voyager approached the 327, an alarm suddenly blared on both ships. Captain, I'm detecting a massive surge in quantum energy, shouted Lieutenant Torres from her station in engineering. On the 327, Liz's eyes widened in panic. The device. It's overloading. She frantically tried to stabilize it, but the quantum wave field manipulator pulsed wildly. Voyager, back away immediately, Nolan shouted into the comm, but it was too late. A blinding flash erupted from the device, engulfing both ships in a quantum shockwave. The 327's view screen showed Voyager's hull buckling under the strain, breaches opening along its port side, alums blaring and lights flashing on 327. Multiple hull breaches. Harry Kim's voice crackled over the comm. We're losing life support on decks. His voice cut off abruptly. When the light faded, Nolan and Liz stared in horror at the damage to Voyager. Entire sections of the ship were torn away, bodies and debris floating in the vacuum of space. Ilara, scan for life signs, Nolan ordered, his voice tight. Get a transporter lock. I'm detecting approximately 30 life signs remaining on Voyager, Ilara reported. More than 20 crew members have been lost. The ship is out of phase, Nolan. I can't get a lock on anything. Chakotay's voice coming across a static-filled comm. Can you hear me? Mercer, can you hear me? We're venting atmosphere. Multiple hull breaches on. ALL decks. Chakotay's voice cut off as a massive explosion erupted from Voyager's engine room, lighting up the whole view screen. Liz screamed at the shock and horror of what she was watching. Nolan let out a gasp. It was over. They were gone. He'd killed the entire crew of Voyager. He fell into the chair behind him. What have I done? He was still too shocked to grasp it. What was I thinking? He thought to himself, putting his head in his hands. He couldn't make himself care if 327 had sustained any damage, or even if they could get back to the Alpha Quadrant. We've got a massive quantum spike. Nolan, I can't isolate it, Ilara said urgently. Well, no, Liz cried, desperately trying to shut it down. The quantum fields are collapsing. What does that mean? Nolan asked, moving to help her. It means, Liz began, but her words were cut short as another flash enveloped them. Oh, Nolan stood just inside a bustling cafe on Starbase Yorktown, awaiting Dr. Lisette Aldean for what was essentially a job interview. He spotted the doctor entering from the far side of the cafe. She nodded at him and headed straight over. Dr. Aldean arrived beside Nolan, looking disheveled but brilliant, dressed in khaki, tan, and brown, reminding Nolan of his elementary school librarian, right down to her curly reddish-brown hair in a tangled mess. "I'm sorry if I kept you waiting. Some days my work is just ridiculous," she said. "Not at all. I just got here. Let's head out, Doctor. We have a lot to discuss." He held the door for her. As they exit the cafe in the distance, two junior Starfleet officers were engaged in a hushed conversation. "But trapped in the Delta Quadrant? That's a life sentence," one said. "They'll be lucky if their grandchildren see Earth." "No kidding. It's terrifying," the other responded. "But we thought the crew of Voyager was dead for over a year. It's incredible they're even alive."